The world needs mining, and it seems like the world's starting to understand. But we don't just need mining for new cameras, as Robert Friedland outlined to Donald Trump in a recent visit in the White House. We also need mining for food solutions, because all of us want to eat, and there are some places in the world that are fully relying on the import of agricultural products, such as Brazil. And today we have a company with us that's actually about to bring a phosphate company in production in Brazil. Today with me is Tim Horsking. He's the CEO of Aguia Resources. Tim, it's great to have you.
Thank you, Jan. It's my pleasure to be here.
So maybe we start with a little bit of a macro overview. We have talked about Aguia in the past, especially with Warwick, and we always talked about the gold and also the phosphate project. Give us a quick overview. Where are we at?
Well, we're very close to production in Brazil. We're in the final stages of applying for the operational license, which is the final step after the issuance of the environmental and installation licenses. It's more of a formality to ensure that we've followed the protocols under the two aforementioned licenses. We've completed the construction phase of that. The mine is prepared, and now we are just waiting on the local regulator to issue the license, which we expect late March, going into April of this year.
Okay, perfect. And that's on the phosphate side. What's going on at the gold side in Colombia?
So in the gold side, we've revised our strategy from the previous year, 2025. We cut back staff. I believe we had 125 staff members in Colombia prior to my role as CEO commencing. We cut that back immediately to the mid-20s, and now we're basically revising our mining and processing strategies. We're doing batch mining, batch processing. Over the first 2 months of my tenure at Aguia, we have basically processed about 250. Well, we have 250 ton stockpile of low to mid-grade ore. We have processed that in a trial fashion, looking at different methods to optimize recovery. We've been quite successful. In our last batch that we sent through at the end of January, we received about 90% recovery of that. So we're quite happy, although
Okay, so the gold is improving and also the phosphate in Brazil is developing. You're waiting for the final approval and then you're ready to go. All of this sounds very good. And another change to the company is obviously, I'm not talking to Warwick here anymore. I'm talking to you. You're now the CEO. Warwick stays as an chairman of the company. But give us a background. Why are you the right person to bring this company to the production level and also to a better track now?
Okay, well, I've been working in South America for nigh on 20 years, based in country since the end of 2010, so greater than 15 years, predominantly for ASX-listed companies. My first 12 years was in upstream oil and gas for Karoon Energy. We took the company from about a $3 million market cap up to $2 billion market cap in Australian dollars, based on Browse Basin, offshore Western Australia, and also Santos Basin, offshore Brazil, and Tumbes Basin, offshore Peru. Following that, I was in midstream oil and gas for a privately held American group. 2 projects in Brazil, one in Rio de Janeiro and one in the more or less in the Amazon for LNG, gas to power, LNG offloading, etc. So I have a wealth of experience in Latin America, predominantly Brazil. I've been with Aguia since 2000, so we'll have to cut that, but since 2024. As the country manager, predominantly focused on the phosphate project. My wife is from close by, actually, to where the phosphate project is, so I have a close personal interest to the region. We overcame the issues related to the public ministry in Brazil. We slowly built a strong team. We've signed a mining services and logistics contract to reduce our capex exposure. So it's purely a price per ton delivered to the processing facility. So a $300,000 capex on that side. And on the processing side, we leased an existing limestone blending fertilizer facility, again with the goal to reduce our capex exposure, limiting that to 3.5 million Australian dollars, whereby a greenfields development would be north of 15 million Australian dollars. So our focus was reduce capex to avoid dilution, and basically going forward with a with the phosphate project, which we're nearing on being 100% ready for in the next 6 to 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And, there is something called the Lassonde curve. I'm sure most of the viewers have heard of that before, meaning if you invest into mining companies, there's always a good point between the exploration phase and the development phase. And then the sweet spot is basically a company that's about to go into production. And you would perfectly fit into that phase because, as you said, you're just waiting for the final improvement and then you would be ready to go. But to be fair here, we're talking about phosphate. You pivoted a little bit from primarily focusing on gold to the phosphate side, meaning there is probably a little bit of a lack of understanding for the market because it's not working as the gold market. It's working differently. You're not taking the gold and then you sell it on the spot price. It's a different market. Can you explain us a little bit how the market works and why you think you can be successful there?
Okay, well, you're 100% correct. It's completely different to the commodity market, and coming from oil and gas, and obviously our experience in gold, it's a different beast. We have a 100% local team next to the mine site, with whom have been experienced in selling limestone into the agricultural sector. Luckily, our mine site is located in the heart of the richest agricultural region of Brazil, which Brazil happens to be the richest agricultural country in the world, with beef exports, soy exports, rice, well, domestically produced rice, wheat, corn, etc. Obviously, the largest producer of sugarcane in the world. And luckily, we're also located about 100 kilometers north of Uruguay, which is transferring into 100% organic agricultural country. As they can't compete with Argentina or Brazil on volumes, they're going to compete with high quality of product. And our particular product is an organic phosphate. There is no chemical process involved in our phosphate. It's simply drying and crushing and placing into a bag. So we're a unique product in a high demand market. And if you look at the phosphate, high grade phosphate is now being taken off the market for the use of batteries in China, etc. So the demand is quite high. Brazil and the southern part of Brazil imports 100% of their phosphate needs. So we'll be the only producer in the 3 southern states of Brazil, the southern cone of Brazil, for local made phosphate, placing it, meaning we're well positioned to compete with the international fertilizer companies, having a logistical cost advantage over those.
Excellent. I mean, this is what everybody is looking for, right? I mean, it sounds like a perfect business opportunity. Some people always forget it. When you invest into a stock, you're basically investing into a business. And it seems like you are doing something what the people actually need because, as you said, Brazil is importing their fertilizer. And you are one of the only companies that can provide it, especially the one company that can provide it in the southern states. And I think that's a very interesting business case. But again, it's different than mining, especially when it comes to gold. So that's very cool. Can you give us also a little bit of an idea about the cash flow and the revenue and the size of the project, right? I mean, first of all, it's taking a little bit of time until you can get the cash flow because you have to build a stockpile first. And B, what kind of numbers are we talking about? Is there anything you can share with us?
Yes, well, we'll ramp up the project. So we start at 4,000 tonnes per month for the first 2 to 3 months. as we build up and confirm sales, we'll put a second shift of people into the processing facility. So we'll ramp up to 8,000 tonnes per month, and our goal is to reach 12,000 tonnes per month by the end of this year. So going to January, we would have that third shift. Moving on, and that would give us about 20 million Australian dollars in revenue in phase one. And then we have the option to increase that to a fourth shift going into 2027. Also, we're in the process of doing our feed engineering studies for an additional drying unit and hammer mill crushing capacity, which would take the lease processing plant up to 300,000 tonne annually, maybe 310,000 tonne annually, for a capex of less than 5 million Australian dollars. We've also discovered two other areas neighbouring the processing facility, one called Passo Feio and the second called Mato Grande. Those discoveries, we've drilled over 2,500 meters of shallow holes across the area, and we hope to have a JORC resource by the middle of this year. Upon a successful JORC resource, we would then look at the possibility of building a greenfields development at the mine site, which is fully licensed for a greenfields development, to take our total production to 600,000 tonnes annually, which would be envisaged for 2028, 2029. We're quite confident that the two areas that we've been exploring and drilling over the past 18 to 22 months, we need a reduced environmental license because there'll be no facility as to be transported to the existing plant. So we could have everything online in the time frame I just mentioned.
Excellent. Perfect, Tim. Thank you very much. I think it seems like you know what you're doing and getting that ship back on track, if you like. Is there anything else in the end that you would like to outline for investors? Is there any news flow to watch at? Anything else that you could share that would be interesting for an investor right now?
Yes, I think that on the Colombian side of things, which was our core focus over the past 18, 24 months, we've suffered some setbacks. We have looked at the issues that we've faced. We've made strong decisions, and we're making the right technical decisions in a much smaller, reduced risk in terms of processing and selective mining. And we are quite confident that over the next 6 months, going to 12 months, we'll be able to put forward a plan to ensure that the Santa Barbara mine breaks even, makes profit, and we can drill further exploration holes over that in the back half of this year to ensure that we have a robust project and a successful development going into 2027, 2028.
Perfect. Seems like we have a transformational year ahead of us, right? The year just started, so there's a lot to come. Tim, thank you very much for your insights. I'm really looking forward to see the developments and to touch base again soon. Thank you for your interview. It was great.
Thank you, Jan, and thanks for having me as always.